Hello, and welcome back to the channel. Hallo, meneer Viggy. En ik maak live videos, mostly of Yiddish. Van me vangt aan tegen video. Please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing. Het gaat een lange week. En dan kan je weer naar channel member. Ga bij de join button. En als je wil supporten de channel, kan je gaan zien buy me a coffee /Viggy vibes. Ik heb gepind the address by the comment. By the comments. Sadly. Hello and welcome. How are you? How was your day? Mastermind. Hello, Mastermind. How was your day? Gotta leave in 59 seconds, cutting. But yes, even for a second. That's why I say by the end. Thank you for even being here a second. I really do appreciate it. Your day was BH. I like it. I must say I was sitting here for about 10 minutes. I didn't really want to go live. You guys want to hear the truth? I think we'll hear the MS. It was a bit... You get the idea, yes. Hit the off button. Hit the off button. My day was alright. My day was good. Got a gig. Wir gemacht ein bisschen cooler. Geworden ein bisschen toller. Geworden ein Baller. Gemacht a caller. But I was sitting here like a few minutes. I didn't want to go live. I was like, what? Shmuley Sikkes is on the cover of Moment magazine. Nice. By the way, the Yom Adinning is one of my favorite songs. You do it for us. I do it for myself as well. Mich and Enk. Enk and mich. It's not like I don't get anything out of it. Wo's wenn, wie, weiß man nicht. But I was like, what's gonna happen? Kleine rief zich gewoon door. I'm like, you know me. Had gemacht dat joke. Enjoy, Sally. Enjoy. Viggy getting more confident from every gig. Yeah. What the joke is? As ich esse jeden Tag Eier in the free. Eggs. But this morning I didn't like them. They were mediocre. Lame. But still funny. Weißt, Shmuley Sikkes songs darf geben mal Betracht. Hold on. Ridi da 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 di da da da. How are you, Mastermind? Wie ist gewesen am Tag? Yishoma v'yivochim yecho v'yisu Yoi brine, yoi madi. Das ist derselbe Style wie Matche Ben David song. Koit not man es nicht lieb, noch dem it just grows on you, my man. Hershey, Danziger. Hallo, wie sind wir am Tag? How are you? Abraham Numen. Gute Nacht. Hello, hello. Wie sie gewähnt am Tag? Herrschi, wie sie gewähnt am Tag? Weißt Herrschi, ich flieg dort von dan area wie die Flags wohnen. And I used to be like, oh, Hershey wohnt do. But now it's all desolate. I'm like, nobody lives there anymore. Your day was awesome. Nice. Somebody liebt sehen, hat der Tag gewesen awesome. 1 year ago, 193,000 views. Ich verstehe. Kiek dem Käusel. Ah, sie haben reingeedit, de besmigdish. Besmigdish haben sie reingeedit. Nice. Hab ich jetzt bemerkt. Hold on. Shmili Sikas. 4 days ago, 31,000 views. Der Nigen heißt Mr. Keller Shamaim. Kick off vom Himmel. Hab es noch nicht gehört. Let's get into it. Fang me gleich an tun.
החסיד הלך בשוק, ממהר וגם עסוק, לא להפסיד אף רגע, לא להפסיד אף זוז. החסיד הלך בשוק, ממהר וגם עסוק, לא להפסיד אף רגע, לא להפסיד אף זוז. פגש אותו לפתע הרבי רבי נחמן ושאל,
Wat me van dem drap. 3-4.
הסתכלת היום לשמיים? תסתכלו לשמיים ותצביעו אליו, הנה 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 בורא עולם. תסתכלו לשמיים ותצביעו אליו, הנה אלוקינו חי וקיים. תסתכלו לשמיים ותצביעו אליו, הנה 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 בורא עולם.
Zeg een magazine. Als 3 gezocht. Holiday beat. Not bad.
החסיד הלך בשוק, ממהר וגם עסוק, לא להפסיד אף רגע, לא להפסיד אף זוז. החסיד הלך בשוק, ממהר וגם עסוק, לא להפסיד אף רגע, לא להפסיד אף זוז. פגש אותו לפתע הרבי רבי נחמן ושאל, הסתכלת היום לשמיים? תסתכלו לשמיים ותצביעו אליו, הנה 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 בורא עולם. תסתכלו לשמיים ותצביעו
Levi. Hello and welcome. Levi lesson. Welcome, welcome. How is Solid day. I like to hear that. Holiday. Whenever anything said, ben ik in. Baba Schmachkeit, das kann ich tun.
הסתכלת היום לשמיים?
Als je gekickt aan zum Himmel. Interesting, interesting. By the way, the reason in der Seite sind in der ältere Deuters, sind gewesen sei angetan in der Himmel, is omdat je had kein light pollution. Immer gekannt sehen the sky. Pretty cool. In ganze Plätze wie the sky is tinkel. You know what I'm saying? Ze do in Pennsylvania, do parks, Sherry Springs. So one of the darkest night skies of days out of the United States of New York, that. And on my bucket list to go there. Ich bin keine Gein. Gate starten. Sei scheint zu sein. Siruli. Hello and welcome, Siruli. How you doing? Wie sie gewähnt am Tug? Gebens du schneller Zug. So mit der Schmilli-Sickers. Pretty cool, pretty cool. Family Weissman. Hello and welcome. Wie sie gewähnt? How are you? Welcome. Sent me a photo of the cover. I'm going to my email. Siruli BH. Nice. Oh, so cute. So cute. Gets a kick. Wo ist der Maße dort? Und ich gewinn geht mit seiner Tate? Tate in ich gewinn. Sie gewinn a funny game. Hey Gürtner. Hello and welcome. Scheint dir zu sein. Du bist neu, du. So welcome. Von wie checkst du da an? Darf ich keine Adresse exactly, but... Und wie sie gewinnen an Tag. Welcome, welcome. Family Wiseman. Doing well in the rainy London. Just look London. I'm kidding. But he's not kidding. Don't know, we will read the Shabbos. So lass mich wissen, wo die Lines, dann lass mich wissen, wo es die Sache ist. In sehen wir de, wieso rief mir jener Emoji, ja? Der verlorene Emoji? So lass mal sehen, Schmüllistickers hat rausgegeben nach. Good. Nice. So man liebt zu hören, als einer geht einen guten Tag. Sie macht unser Tag ein bisschen besser. Hat ein Tag nicht so geht. I'm sorry. Nicht vergessen. Nice, Rolli. Sie gewähnt a message. So, we'll kick off Schmilli's sickest situation. Hold on just a minute. Siruli, we see you, Siruli. In Zeemedech. Zanisch besorgt. So, Schmilli's sickest hat rausgegeben, a pur andere Neginem. Hab ungefähr hören, also ein bisschen du, ein bisschen dort. Levi. Thank you so much, Levi. Levi gave my super chat. Thank you so much. You gave my quick pay, which we appreciate. Thank you so much. This is how the channel keeps going. You know what I mean? This is how the river keeps flowing. Thank you, Siruli. Thank you so much for the Zogen. Man darf eibig hören von Fans. So eibig, ein negative comment kann heranfuhren all the way tief, compared to 500 positive comments. So, just listen to the HBS podcast. It's amazing. You have to bring him on stream, virtual, and do listening party. So, he's trying to stay anonymous. I don't even know who he is. He's trying to stay anonymous, so we're gonna keep him anonymous. Siruli, I'm air conditioned. Hat a air condition. Of the Hornets der conditioner. Okay, ich will sicher, dass du noch einigen. Hold on. Mekadesh Melech heißt der Nigen. 4 days ago, 21,000 views. He's getting some views, this guy. Ich meine, tun wir im Treffen sagen Groove. Mich schon gleich auch gekauft, aber einer kennt mich und weiß, dass man hört in a song. You got me. Ich habe gemacht ein ganzes Album Review. Es ist nicht gut, meaning ich bin nicht gewinnt gut, weil man kann nicht machen ein ganzes Album Review. Es ist nicht kein Review, es ist ein Album Reaction. Noch habe ich gemacht ein separate für einigen. So, go check es aus.
Migdash melech ir melucho umitzei mitoech afeicho.
Does this count?
Migdash melech ir melucho umitzei mitoech afeicho.
They sound schon wie a typical song, which is okay. Man kann nicht rausgeben Bangers jeden Tag. Like they real. Etwas wie. Ba 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 ba. It's mehr als a Chiva song, you know? By the way, Levi, du bist a muss short, einer, wo soll spielen nur das. Gib a holler. Joke. Joking away. Da 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 da. Ya 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 ya. Da 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 da.
Migdash melech ir melucho kumitzei mito.
Imagine that jeder einer in der Car schläft. Me voort. You know what I mean? Mit nicht schmied, the driver in nicht schmied. Overtired. Okay. Overtired. In deze Arbeit ruhig. Es ist fein warm in der Car, but in draußen ist kalt, und man fuhrt darauf zu Canada. You get what I'm saying? Correct a bisschen the window. Se sound wie Hoirav loch shevei meshu yeime kabochu. Se sound a bisschen wie den Ding. Die paar, dat maakt me gewoon van andere dingen. Ik ken de show met de ding, maar het sound wie... Me ken voor een tweede ding met hem. It makes me want to buy it too. Good one, yeah. שמש מימי כבוכו
והוא יחבוי לו להיכם לו איי 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 איי
Okay. Not bad. Nothing major about this song, but this is wel, get er aus a Sache gitter, als kommt mich zu a 8 oder a 9, fühlt es ein bisschen wie a letdown, you know what I mean? When is Viggy's tours coming? What do you mean? Meaning, what do you mean with that, family? But sie geht nicht, meaning, als wenn wollte nicht rausgeben, der andere, wo es eine super geht, oder es gewinnt sehr schein. Das ist the problem, wenn einer geht raus, sehr geht in music, that it kills the vibe a little, you know, kills the... Wir können nicht den ganzen rausgeben, 10s all the time. Du ist noch einigen. Hayele da sehr. 4 days ago, nur 3,000 views in ein comment. Der Oilem hat das nicht lieb. Ze lo nira li, der Oilem hat das lieb. Holly, wie liked daran pictures von sich als Kind? Traveling? Hopefully. I mean, again, nicht ein du, sie machen a travel, but one day we'll travel and we'll, you know. Boss Nation. Hello and welcome, how was your day? We got the boss in the house. Wie sie gewähnt an Tug, huh? But, ich will etwas sagen, du, wegen der Cover. Man sieht a picture in der High Chair, man sieht in Pyjamas, schein ungetein, in der Sicke. Weil, jener Zeiten ist a Kamera mit Film gewähnt, als er sagt, man gehabt a picture, aber man gecherish die Pictures. Hand, jeden Tag hat man 35.000 Pictures. Man kickt das keinmal nicht dadurch. Wenn kickt man einmal dadurch Pictures? Ja, wenn Google schickt dir a Memory von 10 Minuten zu die Geister, aber muss man gevalued. Pictures haben gar a größere Value. So es hat, geht in eine schlechte Sache. Ich hab wenig Pictures, aber ich hab Pictures genug zu haben.
אל תסתתר מילדים שמחפשים רק אותך תאיר לי את הדרך שאוכל לראות אותך תראה כבר את הפנים
My day was alright. My day was good. My day was alright. Kann ich complainen auf a Tug wie Hand. Oh doch, ich kann schon wieder aufgehen, bitchen. But, you know what I'm saying.
שלך שנבין ילדים שמחפשים רק מי שיחבק אותם אל תסתתר המצב לא פשוט שם ילדים שמחפשים את עצמם שרק נבין אל תסתתר מילדים שמחפשים אותך
Oh, ich weiß, was sagt noch 3100. Weil das ist der Music, nicht der Music Video davon.
תראה לנו שזה אתה אל תסתתר מילדים שרק רוצים אותך
Die Auswahl ist Sleep Family, weiß man? Why?
הכל זה אתה הרי הכל זה אתה זה אתה
Ay, 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 ay.
הרי הכל זה אתה זה אתה
Nations of buses. It's both for you.
אל תסתתר מילדים שמחפשים רק אותך. תאיר לי את הדרך שאוכל לראות אותך. תראה כבר את הפנים שלך שנבין. ילדים שמחפשים רק מי שיחבק אותם.
Hello and welcome. How was your day?
שמחפשים את עצמם שרק נבין. אל תסתתר מילדים.
I would say, as the album, at least a poor take, 2 Eintog, you know.
אל תסתתר מילדים שרק רוצים אותך.
Draai dich is ja weg, huh? Verlieren is deine Kinder, wo es Sachakel dichen dir. What kind of words is this, you know? Aber ich gitte expressed. Se gitte Wörter, you know? Let's hope so, mastermind. Good? By me is very well. Very good day. We got a gig. We gegangen live in the free. We got a gig. We gewalkt. We finished the 10,000 steps. 10,800 as of now. Nog de mabbe heb is 9:30. So, no complaints.
תסתכל מילדים שמחפשים אותך. תראה לנו שזה אתה.
Anything we should complain yet, is wants, nicht needs. Because my needs, sind geworden gegen man. So funny though, wir sitzen du, von 6:45 kann ich gewollt gehen live. Wir sitzen du von 6:30, but 6:45 kann ich gewollt gehen live. I was like, It's not easy what I'm trying to say, you know? Wir sitzen du, boobity bobbity boobity boop. But we decided to go live. What's up gestarkt? And thank you, Levi Lesson, for schicken a quick pay. It means a lot. It keeps the channel going. Chredu was schon gehört the video, the music. All right. Ich will reviewen von Meaningful People. Say 4 days ago, 37,000 views from Assad, psychologist. Our reality exceeded your imagination. Thank you, Mastermind. We appreciate you. Thank you, though. Is Levi still here? I wanted to ask him about Salzband mics. By the way, Salzband, Gitta die sagst, ich denke, ich vielleicht sagen, als man soll haben the music in the background, the mics in the background. And they did it. Salzband did it. We got to review it here. Ich habe es gesehen, Hand. Ich habe es gesehen auf Jealousgram. Ich habe nicht Jealousgram, so hold on. Und noch habe ich gesehen, sie haben es gepostet auf Episode 1, Episode 2 und Episode 3. Basically, bei der Gasten, da sieht man, habe ich der Singer geht mit der Headphone. Und alle Gevre gehen mit Headphones und einer redet daran zu sein. Und ich fliege sagen für Weeks, als sollen das heranlegen in der, so, einer soll mir das schicken, aber ich will es zusammenstellen. And the Salzband jumped on it, and it's beautiful. Hold on.
Wow. That was awesome.
To get a bit of color. Thank you, Levi. We enjoy you as well.
We're gonna do these chords, rim and trumpet. Have some fun. 2,
3.
2, 3.
So happy they listened to it.
Saxophone, give me some crunch, baby.
Saxophone, give me some crunch.
From the F shop.
But what's like then is the full of no? Do of YouTube.
Build, wait, 2,
3.
build, keep going, 2.
He was here.
Distortion.
Distortion.
Ba, 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 then beat and then again. Beat. Unison again, 3, 4. Regular.
Ich weiß nicht, warum er macht nicht die ganze Sache, du auf YouTube. But, yeah. Kazan er over-exaggerated do, but, deze heb ik geleerd.
A few times.
Honestly, they got 3. Ahai.
Sing it. One more time. Let's go. Faster, bam, bam, let it be, let it be, let it be. Build, wait, 2, 3, build, keep going, 2, open distortion.
Het is veel het beste wie ik getracht.
Ba, 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 then beat and then again. Beat. Unison again, 3, 4. Regular.
Beautiful. The Salzband guy had verloren a Sach Vogue. But I think we had him over here on the live back in the day. And ich flag this a Sach zogen, man soll es hoben. I didn't know it's going to be this good. And I think he's perfect for it, because I thought they get the energy. I like. All right, and gaan we watchen do fin former Mossad psychologist. Fin meaningful people, 37,000 views in 4 days. Seems like the automat asleep. An hour and 13 minutes. Let's get into it.
There was complete chaos. Everyone was worried that
I'm going to ask cc/meaningful.
I
You
know.
enjoy this episode. Your resume is amazing.
Had zijn stille voice. Wil het maken meer dramatic.
You've done a
Hold on, begin maar ik. De comment. Doe erop in. Zo steert het keine wish. Okay. Now back to the episode.
lot of incredible things, and we're going to get to obviously everything, most notably the Mossad, you know, which is rare to be able to speak to someone who can say they were part of the Mossad.
Ja, ik ga je aan de game alle details. Alle, wat wist te wissen?
That in itself is rare, and I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of things that you're not gonna be able to answer that I'm
No
gonna ask,
way.
and we'll maneuver accordingly. But something I wanted to touch upon that you found interesting is that after October 7th, you were one of the first people, mental health, professional psychologists, to meet with the hostages that came out of captivity. What was that like? Like when you did that, and obviously we're going to get back to all the service that led up to that. We're starting backwards a little bit, but just to touch upon that, because we just saw Hostages come out a couple weeks ago, and what was that like for you?
Yeah.
And what do you see?
Well, it's actually very relevant to what you started with as far as my background in the Mossad, because for me, for somebody who's used to being in what I call...
Listen closely. Zijn English is perfect. Had nicht kein Israeli accent.
a parallel universe where people, it's like beyond people's imagination. And
Zie? Du was nicht gewusst, er ist Israeli. Und ich bin sicher, er kann es uns mit der Switch.
people's grasp. I'm used to being in that type of zone. And so when I came to meet hostages, most people think, oh my God, hostages, somebody coming out of captivity, they just, they can't even imagine being able to meet someone like that. For me, I wouldn't say it was in my comfort zone, but it definitely wasn't something that was, far away. I myself also, as a pilot, went through POW training. I train our commandos and pilots in POW training. So, and I'm an experienced clinician as a clinical psychologist dealing with trauma. So I felt like
He's an American. Oh, okay.
I was, the right guy in the right spot. So from that point of view, it's important because most people just can't even imagine meeting somebody. So I didn't have that anxiety.
Right.
It was more about actually, this is like behind the
Der Reason, warum ich sage, als sound wie nicht kein Israeli, is because for the Menschen, wo sagen, as Israel is one of the biggest threats to America, meaning, jede country has to look out for themselves. Echt. Dus du echt kein allies. Man macht allies because your enemy is my friend, yeah? My enemy, your enemy. So, it's we my friends. In Azami perspective. Ze zijn attacken allies, aber jede country is echt selfish voor zich. En du kennst nicht wissen, es ist Israeli.
scenes people don't realize because
En ook het wie zijn alliances liggen.
what everyone has seen on the TV and all the reunions and all the releases, they see like a very smooth process, but it didn't all start that way. October 20th, 2023, the first two hostages were released, Judith and Natalie Ranan. And there was complete chaos because we're talking 13 days into the war.
Yeah, it's in full swing at that point. Yeah, like
Well, but I mean, people. Do you know how many people were missing on October 7th? Giving you a pop quiz here.
I want to say like over 1,000. Yeah, more than 1,000, 2,000.
3,200 people were missing,
not accounted for.
unaccounted for. They could either. I mean, 1,200 were murdered.
Yeah.
251 were taken into captivity.
Or the rest.
A lot were injured and unaccounted for, lying in the bushes, still hadn't been found. So there was complete chaos, and it took us.
Zo goed gewesen. They also made the Hannibal Act. Hannibal Act is meint, man schießt jedem. Just to protect the border. Man weiß nicht, wer es war, so man schießt jedem.
2 weeks to whittle down that number of missing people to 55. So I'm saying this in the context of meeting the first hostages. It's 13 days in. The country is still in chaos. There's still 55 people missing. Nobody knows what's going on. Nobody trusts the Hamas, rightfully so. There's no deal. And so we go to meet these two hostages. And so it was all very... everyone was worried that maybe even the Hamas would
like bug them.
Or even before that maybe the ambulance, the Red Cross ambulance, maybe Hamas terrorists will jump out and we have to be ready for a firefight. So the commandos were there ready for a firefight, and then finally the women came out, and maybe they're even booby trapped or bugged or whatever. And so it was a completely different concept of like how to approach them. And so when I got there, they luckily they thought it would be a good idea to send a psychologist to meet them. And so I felt like I had to calm everyone down and realize, okay, these people, they need two things. One is first and foremost a soft landing, which is what we gave them. But at the same time, it was really important to get life-saving critical intelligence about the other hostages that were left behind.
So how do you balance that? Again, like you mentioned, we're all watching, especially in the early days when all these releases weren't like
Alles geht's. Wow, hello and welcome. It's been a minute. Hello and welcome.
On Shabbos, they were like,
Yes.
Lately they're all on Shabbos, I feel, but
Als gesehen the counter, the subscribe count, deswegen dir.
early days, I remember watching the screen and seeing the Red Cross van cross over into Israel and making this exchange, and it's just remarkable. But there's also so much in my mind watching this, like, I have no idea what's about to happen for these people afterwards, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're receiving these hostages.
Van wo geht man, wo sie gewähnen in Zahmeint? Weil hat a meaningful podcast situation?
Probably have a lot of intel. They've seen a lot. They've heard a lot. And they also need
Welcome, alles gut.
help mentally. So can you take our listeners and me through...
Was auch, die Menschen, die sind again hostage und rausgekommen, haben nicht gesehen, wo die es gesehen. Sie haben nicht gesehen, die TV. Sie haben gesehen, wo sie haben gesehen. Die ganze Trauma, also wie man sagt, in Amerika du mehr Trauma wie in Israel, wegen der Busbombers und Sachen. Die Gevre sind again hostages, haben nur gesehen, Zaire, sie haben nicht kein TV. Sie haben gesehen, Zaire, nicht als again gring, but I'm just saying, sie haben nur gesehen, Zaire pain.
When the camera stops rolling and the ILTV is not there to capture, what happened?
Yeah, well, it's even before the cameras are rolling. There's things that are going on, and that's the initial meeting between the Red Cross and our forces. That's something that's not caught on camera. I mean, it's closed circuit. We see that, and that is like literally the first moment, and that's like a really important moment where we would watch that together with the families in like a closed room to see that initial meeting. And that's that's a huge relief, and there's a script there. Every single thing is taken into consideration, literally every word that is said, who's going to say when, and there are like two sentences that are said there. The first sentence is to ground the returned hostage.
Are you able to say what they were?
It's basically, you're here now in Israel. My name is so-and-so. I'm a social worker from the army. I'm here to escort you to meet your family at the nearby base. And so-and-so will be waiting for you. And then so-and-so is waiting for you. It's not necessarily your wife and the people you're hoping to meet.
Right.
And then they, from that, understand who's not waiting for them. And then the idea, the principle there is to be what we call pull, not push. We don't push any information to them. And it's all about being very, very careful and allowing them...
Kästen wie cameras under pressure. Sei das it's going to be like this, it's going to be like that.
To decide what the pace is. And so if they ask and say, okay, who's waiting, who's not waiting, then, it's tricky. You don't want to overwhelm them with too much information. But at the same
I would say pink verkehrt. Yiddish. I would say he's not a Fed.
time, you will never lie.
Israeli Fed, okay.
Sometimes you may deflect it and say, okay, maybe it's better that so-and-so will tell you. But if they insist and they ask, then sometimes at that very first meeting, they have to be informed of their loved ones who are not with them. And so that's already a dramatic moment. A lot of them also at that stage, when they first feel that they're really, now they're in our hands, in the safe hands of IDF, they let themselves go and cry. And some of them are very appreciative. Some of them, even surprisingly, will take their time to go and meet their family.
Really?
Yeah, because what the image I use is I compare them to somebody who's done. Have you ever done scuba diving?
No, not my thing.
Yeah. So,
what's this man's name? Ich weiß nicht. No idea. In this episode, Glenn Cohen.
Scuba diver, when they come up to the
Ja, sie darf mal raufkommen Start. Dann nicht kennt the bubbles. Sie darf gehen in a decomposer, whatever is man rief das?
Surface. It's called. They have to go through decompression.
Decompression.
They have to go up very slowly, step by step, little by little. Otherwise, it'll be dangerous.
Right.
So the same thing emotionally. If you resurface from this parallel universe, like literally 60 yards underground, to this other reality, if you do it too quickly, it can
be too
be
much.
overwhelming, and
Yeah.
it can be an attack to your emotional system, and you feel bombarded by stimuli. So some people will not realize that, and then they will be exposed, and so that therefore it's our responsibility, the caregivers on the other side, to make sure that everything, all the stimuli are very toned down, from the lighting, from the amount of people, first and foremost, who will see them, to minimize, even though there's so many people that want to, well-wishers and who want
Jack
to come
Stone.
and shake their hand. But no, we try to keep
Hello and welcome.
as many people as possible. Even Trump was planning on coming to visit to the hospital. I'm not sure if you're aware of that.
When he had just come
when
to
he came to the Knesset, he decided that he wants to come to the hospital and meet hostages who had just arrived like 2 hours before that. And that's not, according to our protocol, but it's kind of hard to say no to Trump. And in the end, the speeches at the Knesset went on for too long. And,
he could have counted on that happening.
Right. And so he didn't come. But the idea is to minimum stimuli little by little. And so, but there were also people who felt internally, you know what, maybe I need to do this slowly. And there was one guy who just hung out a bit, sipped the Coke, took his time before getting into the van to go and meet his family. So it's really, really important. It's important to...
Very interesting as someone did it by themselves. Mizana starker character. Jack, I got to read a push-up shot? Yeah. Not tonight, but...
to recognize and respect each returnee's pace and what's good for them, and to give them credit that they know what they're doing. So there was a lot of that in the background.
Oh, I think I'm going to get back to this and
Ik ga maken 1.5, so mechanisch hidden, mechanisch judging the body language.
Unpack it a little bit more, but I want to jump into your origin story a little bit. You're not speaking with this heavy Israeli accent, so you weren't born there. So tell us a little bit about who Glenn Cohn is, who you were growing up, how you got to where you got to.
Sure. Well, it's always nice to be back here, because I grew up here in New York City, Queens, and I went to Jewish day schools, Orthodox day schools, and actually my father was the son of a prominent conservative rabbi, and my father actually was he passed away when I was 6 years old.
Oof.
And my grandfather had asked my Sunday schools.
Mm-hmm.
I'll never forget this. I'm in third grade, and she took us to different schools, and she said, you know what, this isn't good enough for Saba Boaz. He made me promise to give you a proper Jewish education, and this isn't good enough. So I'm going to take you guys back. After a year in Sweden, she brought us back to New York City, to the jungle in New York City, to give us proper Jewish education to Orthodox schools. And I have to say that in credit of my mother, blessed memory. That is a story about integrity, keeping a promise to a person who's not even alive. And so we grew up there, and we had no money, but Ramaz took us in, and Rabbi Haskell Lickstein.
Yeah, that tuition is not cheap. We're looking at a big tuition conversation now on my platform. Ramaz tuition is as high as it gets.
Yeah, so I found out, we got financial aid.
Yeah.
And I found out
Kijkt de ganze Zeit auf zu bekommen als ein Hechscher.
years later that we paid $25 a year for the best education money can buy. My brother was really smart. He was valedictorian. I wasn't so smart, but I was a
That's
good
so nice
player.
that even, meaning like the fact that at that point, tuition's probably tens of thousands of dollars, and the fact that they let you even pay anything, it kind of probably gave your mother a little bit of dignity. Like, I am paying something.
Yeah,
I'm able to pay something.
sure.
They took it. That's
That
nice.
was the idea. They thought of everything. And I only found out years later when I wrote a letter. And so Rabbi Lickstein, he's 93 years old, and every time I do anything, even now when I went to visit to meet the last hostages, I wrote to him saying, thank you, Rabbi Lickstein. You should know everything I've accomplished is thanks to
That's so nice.
the head start that Ramaz gave me. And
That's
so from there I came to Israel the first time, 1982.
How old were you when you went to Israel?
I came in 1982. Only 25% of our graduating class came for the gap year to Israel.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's much higher, of course. But then, I had a scholarship to play basketball at Brandeis, and I was set on that track. But I figured, okay, I'll come to Israel for 1 year. 1982, yeshiva in Jerusalem. In 1982, if you remember from the history books, but
You know what yeshiva I went to, history.
yeah, so the first Lebanon War,
Right.
And so guys my age were going up and down fighting for the state of Israel.
So you're American, and you went to Israel, and you enlisted like once you got
Well,
there?
so what happened was that year I was planning on just being there for 1 year, but I was there and I witnessed what's going on,
LW. Hello and welcome.
and everyone's fighting for the state of Israel.
My day
I
is
figured
good.
I wanna be
How
part
was
of it.
you?
So I gave up on my scholarship and I stayed, and I went into the army, and the rest is history. I spent 30 years of service.
What was your mother's reaction to you saying, "I'm not going to really come back"?
Well, that's a whole other thing. I don't want to get in trouble with mothers here, but I can give tips to kids who want to stay in Israel. What I call the salami technique. What I did was
This is great, by the way. Tips from Assad and how to stay in Israel longer. All the yeshiva guys who are trying to stay 5th, 6th year right now.
Right. So it'll definitely help out the yeshiva guys. The moms may not be so happy, but what I did was I had a plan. I knew I wanted to go into the army, but I knew I couldn't say that to my Swedish mother who had no idea what army and guns and all that. And I told her, I want to go to university. So what Jewish mother, even a converted Jewish mother, would say no to that? And so she agreed. So I went to Bar Ilan University for 1 year. Also, my goal was to improve my Hebrew before going to the army. And then at some stage during the year, I said, you know what? I want to go into the army.
Manipulating at a young age.
Well, yes, that was. I did some manipulation there, but now
Manipulation, no?
I'm a good guy, I'm straight. But yeah, so that's how it happened. And then she came and tried to convince me not to go into the
Hook,
army.
line, sinker. Wow. So you joined, you're what, 18? You're 19 years old?
I was 19, yeah.
Then you joined this Lebanon war. It's a war with Hezbollah?
Well, then Hezbollah didn't exist. Then it was the PLO.
Okay, PLO.
And same, but different terrorist organization.
So like, as an 18-year-old, 19-year-old, you're like, what are you saying? I think a lot of Israelis who grow up and they've had parents who have fought the wars before them, it maybe is a little more familiar, but again, like your upbringing and now you're fighting a war in Lebanon.
Yeah.
What was that like for you?
Well, first of all, I mean, just being in Israel, it was very exciting. And I said, okay, I want to be part of this. And I joined and I wanted to do the best thing possible. So I said, okay, let me shoot for the best possible thing. I wanted to be a pilot. Little did I know that you have to go through a vetting process for like a year and a half before that. So I showed up at the induction center and they're like, what do you want? I'm like, pilot, matkal, and all this stuff. And they laughed at me. They said, no way. It's all.
Who are you? Yeah.
And so they sent me actually to the Navy. And I said, this is crazy. Like I get seasickness. And so they said, I said, what's the best thing I can do? And they said, you can volunteer to the paratroopers. So I volunteered to the paratroopers. And I was in the paratroopers. I got into some elite unit in the paratroopers. And every week I would ask to be transferred to the Air Force flight school. And they took my form and I threw it in the garbage. But after a few months, I got injured actually in some training. And they lowered my physical profile from 97, which you can do everything, to 64, which means you can't even be combat. And it turns out they sent me to be, this is a crazy story, they sent me to be a Xerox photocopying clerk. That was my job.
That's humbling.
That was humbling and depressing. I was clinically depressed. And then a miracle happened. And the second guardian angel of my life after Alexine showed up, a doctor at the Air Force Induction Center, they put me through testing. And all the doctors said, no way, you had a torn ligament. And but this final doctor, Dr. David Forecast, a British guy, said, I see the glint in your eye. I see you've got motivation. You know what? I'm willing to give you a chance. And he let me into flight school with a 64 profile. It's sort of like getting into Harvard with a 2.0 GPA. And it's crazy. And so thanks to him, I got in and became a helicopter pilot, search and rescue, flew many missions in Lebanon, rescuing soldiers in Israel, rescuing civilians. So saved a lot of lives, which is really a wonderful thing to be able to do in the Army. But all that thanks to Dr. Forecast.
It's amazing. Is there like something that comes to mind?
Het is gehad a flame in the Augen. That's important, sag mal. Hast the desire. Once you has the desire, you just have to fight for it. You'll get it.
From all the missions you've flown and you've done, that jumps out at you as this is the craziest time?
Well, there's a lot of stuff. Flying in Lebanon, evacuating wounded soldiers under fire and stuff like that. But I think if I think of one like special mission, I think it's very much, it shows like what our values are. There was once stormy nights and we were on alert on the northern border just in case if there's any need for rescue. And so we were scrambled on a stormy night to go into Lebanon and to evacuate a Lebanese woman, a pregnant Lebanese woman who was having appendicitis. And it was a stormy night. It was very dangerous flying. And we somehow, but it was clear we need to help save this Lebanese woman and her fetus and to bring them back. And we flew in and it was very dangerous and then came in low and barely got through the cloud cover and at the last minute saw the roof of some building, landed on a roof of a building and evacuated her, this Lebanese woman, to the hospital and saved her and her fetus. So I think that's a nice little story that I think for me, it shows like what our values are about.
For sure. People need to be shocked to hear that Israel would do such a thing. They're busy spreading other things. But throughout this process, you were recruited by an organization.
No, you can say the M word.
The M word. Okay. I'm walking around broken glass right now. The Mossad. Yeah, the Mossad. That's like, it's like a crazy concept, especially nowadays when we've seen.
Finn du in water, kann man schon nicht wissen, sie ist ja emes, sie ist nicht emes.
I'm just saying. You've done, right? Yeah. So you're recruited by the Mossad. I guess tell me what you could about that, like how that even works. Someone knocks on your door and says, hey, you.
Yeah, well, I spent about 30 years in the Mossad, and I have to say that the caveat, because people might be asking, like, how can you say you're in the Mossad? You're not allowed to say you're in the Mossad. It's true. Someone who's in the Mossad, even after you've retired, you can't say you're in the Mossad. You're supposed to say the Prime Minister's office. No, that's the
Xerox guy.
Right. Exactly. A lot of times I would say at a certain stage I was in the Prime Minister's office, and people thought I was a psychologist, that I was like Bibi and Sarah's psychologist.
The marriage spouse or something.
Right. But no, so I got special permission a few years ago to say that I'm in the Mossad because I'm writing a book.
Right.
And so for that book, I got permission to say explicitly I was in the Mossad, but not to go into too much detail and to talk about the fact that I was the chief psychologist of the Mossad. So
that's an exciting book. That's like rare clearance.
It is, and so that'll be part of the draw, because the whole world, like I said earlier,
J-Trade Administration. Yeah. Hello and welcome. How are you? The Bisnaido. So welcome. I'm so pessimistic. Well, listen.
Coming from the Mossad, I can say the experience of anybody who's been in the Mossad, you realize that anything is possible. And that's the biggest gift that anybody can get.
Really? Anything?
You start, they'll say, take people from, out of nowhere with no background
Am I being a realist?
whatsoever, and they recruit them into the Mossad. And that was also part of my job as a psychologist to choose the guys who's got the right stuff and to train them. And what's amazing is you go in thinking that you're capable of X, and you finish the training knowing that you're capable of at least 10 times that, and that there's no such thing as mission impossible. And that is amazing. And the way you do it, and this is a methodology that I teach in like my elite method for peak performance, which is what I do also these days, working with team building and leadership training, executive coaching. We teach people how anybody can do so much more than they imagine. But the way to do it is to do it step by step, little by little, venture out of your comfort zone and to succeed more and more and more until you realize, wow, I can do so much more. So that's what they do in the Mossad. Plus you know that this is not just, to make money. You have your why. The big why is to protect the state of Israel against the Iranian nuclear threat, which is an existential threat. So when you have that incredible meaning and that mission, it gives you even more motivation. Yeah. And if you had a doubt, whether you could do it or not, you feel, okay, I got to do this. And so that's really what it's about. And
is it good money?
No,
right?
Are you kidding me? No.
Mossad does not get paid well.
No.
People don't do it for the money.
No.
This episode is sponsored by Kasuba.com. We've all walked into our parents' or grandparents' home, and you see that Kasuba hanging.
Is the beeper attack, right? Mossad pulled off this incredible attack, and just saying, I'm not part of Mossad. Everyone knows that, I'm not that guy.
Nobody thought so. All right.
But just seeing what the news and, all that's coming out.
And if somebody in the Mossad would say that, so still don't know.
Saw recently that some news said like they have this capability more than one place. Like the Mossad has, you mentioned there's no mission impossible. To grasp the ability and the reach of the Mossad is ungraspable probably for a mind like mine. Is that the case?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, in the Mossad we say that our reality exceeds your imagination, and it's true.
Like the tagline,
pretty much. Yeah. And it's
meaningful people.
It's true. And so you see things like things that have been exposed, or even let's say the Prime Minister years back exposed the mission of stealing the Iranian nuclear archive from Tehran under the operation. And so that's.
Es ist rotig, bei Kim and the ganze nuclear program, sagen wir gegangen wird von Amerika. Just saying. So
that was a mission or an operation that the Prime Minister decided to expose. But imagine that there are many operations like that, and even more incredible and daring that no one has ever heard of, and hopefully never will hear of. And so really, it's there are things that are going on that out there, like in the darkness, that you don't see. I compare it to like the whole world of the Mossad and undercover. It's sort of like archaeology and like icebergs. People are icebergs. Like what you see is just the tip and the vast majority. And that's one of my conclusions as the psychologist in Mossad, that most of it's just under the surface, so you're not even aware of it. The same thing. When I go on a bus, looking out into the darkness, I used to think, okay, that's it. But after being in the Mossad, you realize that there's so much going on there that you don't know about at any given moment, which is really unbelievable. So what you see is not what you get. There's so much, and also psychologically. That's under the surface. There's so much.
Are you allowed to talk about like CIA stuff? Like, because you didn't serve the CIA.
I mean, I can say.
By the way, a CIA agent sagen hat, man nicht gelost the Mossad-Gevre kommen zu seiner Headquarters. Sie fliegen Safe Houses, wenn Mossad-Gevre sind gekommen. Also morgen sie gehen buggen.
Whatever I know, but I don't know all that much about
right.
CIA.
People have this. I did once did a
question. Again, how do you know if he knows that he doesn't know? On
the street, and someone said
iceberg.
The Mossad was behind 9/11. Stuff like that, conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
If someone comes over to you and they say that, like, what's your response to that?
In general, when people come up, but also when people ask, "Oh, how could October 7th happen? It can't be by chance. There must have been some kind of conspiracy."
Conspiracies.
A lot of people ask me, and I say, "Dude, I just don't buy into it. Sorry."
Lass mal sagen, dass sie ja gewähnen einen Inside Job. Hypothetically, right? Whatever Inside Job meint. Kennst du an, wird nicht gewusst. Weiß jede Sache, was geht vor den jeder einzigste Programm. Ich muss sagen, es ist nur Programm, das weiß nicht.
Right.
It's coming from somebody who relatively on on the inside and relatively speaking, and all those conspiracy theories, I just don't buy into them.
How does the secrecy aspect of work? Because I mean, Jews are yentas in general. Like we can't keep our mouths shut, and you have this whole network.
Jews are yentas.
That is operating in secrecy, which can
haben seine eigene Mikve. The Mossad hat eine Mikve.
Fall very, very easily, right? So from the psychology standpoint, I'm sure there's training that's happening with these agents to remain quiet, to understand like this is not something we talk about.
Well, that's part of the vetting process.
Man darf die Maßbe sein, nicht zu reden, bis die nicht für den Job. I would say so.
So, I mean, you see, determining who's got the right stuff. One of the things is you see if the person, if you can keep a secret or not. How, we check where he is on the narcissism scale and how much attention he needs. And we need people who they have an inner sense of their worth, and they don't have to talk about it. So that's an important thing. And then there's always the different ways to make sure people, you check them every once in a while, and you've got people have to go through testing and lie detectors and to make sure that they're on the straight.
Are there any stories that you're allowed to say? What you're writing about?
So now that all the live hostages have returned, all 168, I'm writing about their experience and, most important, how they coped and the incredible resilience of these 168 hostages and what we can learn from that. And so the book is going to be about how to cope with trauma and how to even achieve PTG,
Greatness.
which is post-traumatic growth. And that's something that I think is really incredible, because people imagine captivity is worst case scenario and even better off being dead than being in captivity. And how could one even just survive it? And everyone's assuming that anybody who does manage somehow to survive is going to be broken and be suffering from PTSD his entire life. But what we saw is the opposite. We saw the incredible coping skills and resilience of all these 168 hostages. And I'm talking about 80-year-old women, 10-year-old boys.
Jeder einer koopt geht van 186 people or 68 people? I ain't buying that.
Can you explain that?
Because
Ze kunnen ook zeggen, we komen van een country, stam, van woeste du aggressor rate, wel in het Israël leeft men meer met de realist van life and death en enemy en bombes en toit. Ze zag closer, maar is meer tougher. So, epics wie mis playing a role.
just shows that we have this incredible resilience. And in general, like my general message to the world is that we are all capable of much more than we imagine. Sort of like what I said about in the Mossad, you discover that because you're taught that, and you go out there and you're trained and you discover that you're capable of much more than we imagine. The problem is, and this is the tragedy of mankind in my mind, is that people don't realize how much they're capable of. And people assume that they're only capable of this amount. And most people are just not put to the test, either in a good way or in a bad way. They're just not put to the test. And so in the Mossad, they put you to the test in a positive way, and you see how you're capable. Unfortunately, what happened
Sadly,
in 7th of October, these hostages were put to the test. Israelis in general in the country were put to the test, and we discovered this incredible resilience. And so the answer is that we all have it inside of us, all people in general. And I say even more specifically, Israelis and Jews.
Because of the persecution we've always been through.
Yeah, we have it even in our DNA. It's in our collective consciousness. This is what we've been doing for thousands of years.
But there is like, we are seeing a lot of suicide happen. Nova survivors, people who serve in the army. So where does that split?
Yeah, where's the balance between? Yeah, well, I mean that's the point. It's all a question of the balance and the proportions. I mean, what I'm trying to tell people is that people imagine that captivity is you're better off being dead than being in captivity. It's the worst thing possible, and everybody's going to be suffering from PTSD. And what I'm saying is, no, most people, the vast majority, will not suffer from PTSD. Some of them will even experience post-traumatic growth.
Wat ook het, wenn wir zusammen gehabt haben, wir sind reingelegt in einen Tunnel, haben sie nicht mitgehalten, keine andere Sache. Sie haben nicht gesehen Videos, sie haben nicht gesehen die Pictures, sie haben nicht daft mithalten. Sie sind just gewesen in captivity. It wasn't comfortable, it wasn't good, but sie haben nicht mehr gehabt after the access to knowledge.
We're talking about,
it might be better off.
About, let's say 20%, I'm talking, it's like the 80-20 rule. About 20% will contract PTSD. So, okay, yeah, of course. And within that 20%, there are many people in that 20% who are suffering greatly. And some people, unfortunately, from Nova or from the wars, there is a phenomenon of people committing suicide. But it's not 100%. It's not 80. Yeah. It's a small percentage. It's a terrible thing, and we have to take care of it. And the country in general, there are many Israelis as a result of the 7th of October who are suffering from PTSD. Yeah, we have to take care of it.
So unlocking that resilience is kind of what you do. It's interesting. I interviewed this young girl. Her name is Sephora Sassoon, and her family they're all killed in a fire, and she escaped. Her and her mother escaped from the fire, and she lived. Injuries, of course, and I interviewed her, and everyone was so shocked having this girl on. This happened 10 years ago, maybe 15 years ago, something like that. Like they were not sure what they were going to see. This girl went through the craziest trauma, and I met her and I spoke to her, and she's a funny person. She's lighthearted. She's just a good, normal, regular person, and people had a hard time coming to grips with like, whoa, that can't be. And I met a couple of hostages recently myself, and talking to them, just like, how are you? One of them was a hostage for 505 days, and he thought he was in a cage for a lot of that.
Ja, but hij had ook gewinnen in een cage. Het niet gezien kan pictures van kan blid, het niet gezien kan killing, het niet gezien wordt dit zich een Nova festival. He might be better off than a lot of people.
According to, so how can someone like that come out and live then a normal life?
Because we are all capable of much more than we imagine, especially Israelis and especially Jews.
But do they believe it when they come out? From your perspective, talking to these hostages, do they, when they come out, do they believe that they're going to go ahead and live a normal life?
The vast majority of them, yes. And I'll tell you something, the vast majority of the hostages who returned are not in therapy.
What?
And again, people are shocked to hear that. And there are two reasons for that. One is that the ones who came out until now, the first 148, they felt that they couldn't really be in therapy because what they had to do to take care of their survivor's guilt was to go and do everything possible to help bring back their brothers and sisters from captivity. So that's what they needed to do. To take care of themselves, they had to take care of others. That's one reason. And the other reason is that a lot of them just didn't feel that they needed it or wanted it. And so people are shocked by that. But that's the reality.
Well, as a psychologist, is that something that like it doesn't make sense to you?
It makes complete sense to me. It's all about the narrative. Ask me like what everybody out there can do to help the returnees have an easier adjustment period. We need to treat them. It all starts with our assumptions. And that's why I say if we assume that better off being dead than being in captivity, that leads us down a rabbit hole. It's not good for anybody because it's just not true. I met 168 hostages who came back, and not a single one of them would say better off being dead than being in captivity. So instead of assuming that they are victims and that they will be shattered and to pity them, we have to see them as survivors and believe in their strength to cope and to move on with their lives. Of course.
Nicht jeder eine is ready for help, J-Trade. You can take a horse for the water, you can't make him drink. Meaning, nicht jeder einer wird affected von Trauma. Nicht jeder einer hat derselbe Effekt. So du was se glast over, so du was bleibt in, so du was kommt raus später Jahren, so du was kommt keinmal nicht raus. It all depends. And every person has to check on themselves, you know? And truth to themselves. Most people definitely help. But some are strong, you know?
Just be ready, for something else if they need help and be empathetic, but not to assume that there's going to be something pathological, because what you seek is what you find. So if as a caregiver or as anybody in the audience assumes that they are victims and then they will pity them, that's not what they need. That's doing them a disservice and labeling them. No, they need to be considered to be survivors. So that has a big impact, especially the first week or so when they come to the hospital. I worked a lot with the hospital staff.
The Beast Mandy? Whoa, hello and welcome. What a name. Bisnaido, huh? So welcome.
On that, like what approach to have. And in the beginning, a lot of them had the approach, like people say, pathological PTSD, like looking for, where's the post-trauma, let me treat it. But then they realize, no, the hostages that are returned, they don't feel like they need this. And so sometimes they're like pushing this and giving them this label. So it's really important that we help them get on the right track.
We acten normaal.
Back towards health and recovery, and not to assume that they're pathological and
why? What's the regret?
Have PTSD and they need to be treated. And of course, if they need it, yes. But the vast majority will not develop PTSD.
That's amazing to hear. It's also like very, just knowing what some of these hostages.
But ook let me go back. As er is Mossad. Mossad kennen nicht echt meaning. Kan zoeken eine Sache, trachten nach zweite Sache und hoben nach dritte Sache. Sie können an dieser gute Message herauszugeben, als Menschen sollen seine Streeten wie Rachmonesum. But echt darf sie ja gehen auf Therapy. But du darf sagen, weil hat eine Mission. Ja? There's a reason for was lassen ihm sagen, is Mossad. There's a reason for was schreibt a book. Ich nehme es nicht face value. Ich wollte schreiben a book. Is ein Mossad guy. Und ich sage, ich mag schreiben a book. Und ich sage, sure, die kennst. No, this is another agent for the Mossad. Was darf man etwas tun. It is still on mission. My opinion.
Went through on a mental level, but also physical, what they had to endure. I'm sure you've spoken to them, you've heard it as well, and you're aware of what they had to go through. That's
what I was just saying, Sally. That he's still on mission. In zijn mission gewesen jetzt, brechen the silence as is a Mossad guy, and he's playing. That's my opinion. That he might be facts weiß ich nicht. He might be playing another card.
I mean, like, it's such a weird thing to think. Like, there are people who don't go through 10% of that, and they're collapsing. They're not able to. I mean, does it make sense as a psychologist that the people who are put more to the fire are going to respond way better than someone who's just like tested in such a small little way?
Yeah, for sure. And there's a saying, what doesn't kill you, it strengthens you. And it's something in the army they teach you that, and that's
public relation damage control. This could also be the thing to smoothen out. So many things. Wo sie kann auch sagen, gehörig auf Mission.
That's the thing for sure. You also, when you're there you just go into survival mode and you discover all these things that you didn't know existed about yourself. And many of the hostages who came out, I would ask them, like, if you could turn the clock back to October 6th.
Yeah.
En ich mein, Sally, and ob this is Emma's, then it's geht am mawatschtas, you call it out. It doesn't mean it's true, was ich sag. Ich weiß nicht. But the Mossad is also klieg mit dem, why did they let him out of the cage? Hoe hat man ihm gesagt, die kennt kein Public? Kan Geld macht er nicht auch der. In all of a sudden, lot man ihm schreiben a book. Bubi, wo schreibst du mir a book?
And decide not to go to the kibbutz for Simchat Torah. And
Message are coming. I know, yeah, my internet is terrible.
Save yourself those 500 days in captivity. Or not to buy that ticket to the Nova Festival and save yourself 700 days in captivity. What would you do? And quite a few of them said, get ready for this, I would not change a thing.
I don't get it.
I hear a gasp from the audience.
Yeah.
It was even like, far away over the radio.
Explain that though. Like, how does it make sense? Yeah, like this is the most traumatic thing they went through in their entire life.
Well, this is the thing. As a therapist, I know every single person who shows up on my couch in some type of traumatic
It's always
situation.
a couch, right?
It's always a couch, of course. Yeah. They come and they describe the trauma that they're going through now. And either in the first session or maximum the second session, depending on how empathetic I need to be to the situation, I will say to them,
how empathetic I need to be. So wie mit Zintamun. Also wie stark Rachmun ist einfach 10%? 10% it is, boss.
This is very terrible what you're going through now, and it's traumatic. But
for the government, sie rauskommen in machen sound something, delivering a slower punch or a slower blow, a softer blow, better said.
Should know that it's also an opportunity for growth. And usually they look at me like kind of like they don't know what I'm talking about. But 6 months later, more or less,
he's a cleanup crew.
I'm going to say, you know what, Glenn? Now I understand what you're saying. And the idea is every single trauma is an opportunity for growth, even captivity. And so these hostages who said that I wouldn't change a thing.
No. The hostage said they wouldn't change a thing. Why, do you want to be hostage again?
Explain it by saying, I am now 2.0 version of myself. I discovered things about myself that I didn't know existed. And I grew as a result of this traumatic experience because I got through it. I discovered these incredible things about myself. And now I feel like I'm a better version of myself.
This is great news for anybody that has experienced any trauma in their life, which is everybody.
Yes.
Like really, if they could do it, anyone could.
And that's the point of my book. That is exactly the point of my book. I want people to realize that anybody going through any type of traumatic situation can not just get through it, but even grow from it. And that you can imagine. So let's learn from them and let's be inspired by them.
This episode is also sponsored.
I don't know. Did I get? You gotta always, especially there's like, I'm not taking it face value.
And you tell me if I'm wrong.
Hold on.
Enjoy the rest of this episode.
How come we don't? Maybe we did it. Maybe we do it. And you tell me if I'm wrong. Like we look at Holocaust survivors, and they obviously had a lot of resilience. But what you're mentioning seems to be really different than what maybe our people.
We didn't have the same. Someone got us script.
Post Holocaust.
It's not very different. Actually, I'm happy you mentioned that because I feel like this newfound.
Hello and welcome, CG. How you doing?
Connection to the Holocaust. I have no personal family connection, but the 7th of October, in many ways, there are parallels to what happened in the Holocaust, but for good and for bad. Most people assume for bad because it's the worst thing that happened to the Jewish people since the Holocaust, and that's true. And being in captivity in the tunnels is terrible. But from a positive point of view, we also see that the things that these survivors did, the way they coped with captivity, it reminds us of how survivors of the Holocaust actually coped. And specifically, the spirit of Viktor Frankl and the book he wrote.
Ein Mensch hat geschrieben, mein Buch auf Viktor Frankl, and jeder eine ist auf Viktor Frankl.
Man's Search for Meaning. He describes how people coped with the reality of the...
Nein. Geschrieben, wie gekopt. Okay? Menschen haben sich geworfen zu the gates. It was very few. Come on.
Camps. And what's incredible is that many of the hostages, I spoke to them, and they told me that they had read Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning, beforehand.
Really?
And they remembered, in captivity, they remembered what he wrote there. And
no. I don't know. I ain't buying it. Could be.
And what he described, and they drew inspiration from that, and they coped in similar ways. I'll give you a couple of examples. Like one is that they described that Frankl had described 3 distinct stages. First was the shock, the initial shock. Second, adjustment. And the third, being released. And some of them told me how it's the same thing. If you ask most of the survivors who returned from captivity.
When sucht, frag most of the survivors. Man get also a phone book and man can call the survivors. Meaning they live life. Nobody's going to ask them.
If you ask them what was the most traumatic part of 500 days, 700 days, you know what they'll say?
I know what you're going to say. I can't believe it. You're going to say being released.
No.
Okay, good.
No. That's no. But it is difficult. There is a lot of difficulty, but it's not that traumatic.
Okay.
No. The most traumatic thing was the 7th of October. The initial shock.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. No. Well, for a lot of people who are imagining that you're in captivity, you're being tortured 24/7, and this ongoing thing, and that it's better off being dead than being in captivity.
I imagine the closer you are to that day.
Ich try to sagen, als alles geht, alles ist fine. I mean, the trauma is not crazy. That's the vibe I'm getting that he's trying to put across.
Taken, the harder it is because
it's annoying propaganda. I see, Sally, the Sache ist, wenn man macht oppas as propaganda, then you need to work a reverse psychology on yourself. Maybe it's not. You know what I mean?
Trust of the life.
I'm not saying, ich bin auf der Seite. Ich bin auf der Seite, like, all of a sudden, yes, lässt man mal rauskommen, 30 Uhr arbeiten von der Mossad, sei still, man macht Programs nicht zu reden, all of a sudden, lässt man reden.
You had, and now that you have. Meaning, I would think, putting on a psychologist hat for us.
They have strong shrooms. Oh, that's what you said. Oh, okay. So strong meds.
Second, that the longer they go into captivity, the easier it becomes to be in captivity.
Well, yes, but that's the adjustment stage.
Right.
But the first initial shock, just like they encountered in the camps, like this, oh my God, this overwhelming contrast between their normal lives and the horrors. But it's not just that; it's also
Weißt du, World War II, in ich gewinn kein Country, wo sie dir gekommen echt raten, wenn du bist gewinn in a camp. Du, at least, haben sie getracht, als es ist Ruhe, no? So, how could that be the same even?
really the horrors that they endured on the 7th of October. That was the murdering and raping.
And by the way, in the war, hat man geschossen Menschen rechts und links den ganzen Tag. Du, hat man gehalten Captivity, und man nicht geschossen jeden Tag, und ich wusste, ich gewinn in Captivity. If you get what I'm saying. Nicht, als ich mache, als ich gewinn a vacation. Definitely not, and they went through, but I'm just saying, compared to was sagt.
And the slaughtering and the injuries that either they sustained themselves, that was all going on the 7th of October. And in captivity, you somehow adjust to the situation. And coming out it's difficult to adjust.
So anybody who's never been in it, which is probably all of our listeners, they can't imagine being able to adjust to such a thing. I don't mean it in jest, but like we have problem with a 3-day yontif.
Right.
Like, yeah. There are people, I'm serious, like
Some of the problem with 3-day yontif. That was funny.
How can you imagine adjusting? The smallest life pressures throw people off kilt. Right. And you're telling me that these people adjusted to eating.
Ja, weil man gewinnt, once man ist in a room, im ist sie quetscht, und dann Brain sagt, okay, das ist, wo die testen, die SD2 Rations of Food, ist eine Sache easier, wie die spielst über die ganze Zeit, wie man doch aufgepickt, October 7, die ganze Zeit. Nur das ist gewinnt, the real traumatic, is the picking up, bringing you. Once you're in the hole, under the tunnel, it's not easy, but that's not the real trauma.
3 pieces of rice and a tiny little pita a day for 500 days. They adjusted to that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, yeah.
Is that the human psyche? Is that what we all have? Like, really? We have the ability to do that?
Definitely, for sure. And when we go into survival.
Was meint recovering? Zurückkommen wie vor dem? It's not possible. They went through something. The question is if they grow from it, how do they grow? And was kommt daraus davon? And how is their quality of life after? It's never really recovering, if you know what I'm saying. It's never... They're not going to become the same person as they was before. Sie sind etwas durchgegangen.
Mode and we're capable.
Wenn ich stehst auf bei Nacht und die wachst draußen am Bett und an Toe hackt daran in the corner from the bed, you change. You get older. You went through trauma.
Of adjusting to anything. And yeah, I think all those people have trouble with 3-day Yom Tov and all that. They need to, it's another thing that we can learn from these survivors to say, wow, let's remember, what they went through and how could I be complaining about a 3-day Yom Tov? By the way, I have many patients of mine who were before the 7th of October were suffering from PTSD. And there's a phenomenon of after the 7th of October, they feel much better because they're like, how could I complain? When I see what other people went through. And so that actually helps us to have, perspective on things. But another thing I wanted to mention about the Holocaust that's important that we're learning from here is that the spirit of Viktor Frankl and all of the Holocaust survivors, I feel like it's been revived in a positive way. And I think that's wonderful because many people have already...
Ich feel wie trying to bring the kids, was da rausgekommen von October 7. Trying to sell you much?
About the Holocaust, and it's a thing of the past. But what I saw here is that Viktor Frankl and other survivors, their spirit and their legacy is being passed on. And specifically, I have to mention Hirsch Goldberg Polin, who he had read Viktor Frankl, and he remembered that Frankl borrowed from Nietzsche the idea of if you have a why, then you can bear any how. And that's what helped Hirsch survive through the different stages and different parts of the captivity until tragically he was...
Is that what you heard from other hostages that were with him?
And that's the point. And I feel like I have this mission to pass on that message because Hirsch tragically didn't survive, but Hirsch's spirit did survive. And he passed on that idea to other hostages he met. He said, you got to have your why.
Did you really? This is the first time I'm hearing that. I interviewed his mother a few times. This is the first time I'm hearing
this is a big thing. And I feel like really...
Gegangen zusammen haben wir das nicht gehört. Die sucht mir, als wenn Sama, wir wollten nicht gehen proud of him, gesucht für jeder meiner, my son helped out, at least he didn't make it, but he didn't make it never, but at least he helped out. And het gut nicht gesucht, und sucht das. Does anybody smell that?
Passionate about it because I feel like I have to pay this tribute to Hirsch and to all the other survivors who didn't, they're not with us anymore, but their spirit is. Because I met the hostages who had met Hirsch in captivity. And they said, I asked them, what helped you cope? And they said, I had my why. I said, where'd you get that from? And they said, from Hirsch.
Ich habe gemeint, sie haben geleint the book. So jetzt haben sie nicht geleint the book. No von Hirsch. What's happening?
Got it from Viktor Frankl. And so
ich habe gemeint, dass die anderen haben auch geleint Viktor Frankl. Now they didn't read it, they only heard it from him.
Hirsch gave them this coping tool and they survived thanks to Hirsch. So
that's crazy.
I think that's amazing.
Wow. The other end of it, meaning these terrorists, through talking to these hostages, do you get a purview into the mental state of what a Hamas terrorist has going on inside their head? And could you explain that?
Yeah. Well, that's tricky, and it's something that people need to wrap their heads around, the whole concept of captivity. To understand it's much more complex than we imagine. Again, I go back to the initial preconceived notion, better off being dead in captivity, and assuming that it's 24/7, torture, and in the dungeons. There's, don't get me wrong,
it's not ideal. It's not good.
Captivity is hell, and every single hostage went through some type of abuse, whether it be physical, sexual, psychological. But there's also other aspects, and there was quite a bit of like interpersonal interaction between the
terrorists
captives and the captors, and so it's hard for people to understand that, but that was a really
terrorist
important part of what helped the captives, the hostages, actually survive. And some people have heard the term Stockholm syndrome, and I refuse to call it Stockholm syndrome because that has a pathological connotation. I would call it captivity bonding reaction. That's a term that I came up with, and I'm trying to push that for us to realize that it's not pathological, but it's actually a healthy survival mechanism for a hostage to actually find a way to bond with his or her captor will actually improve your conditions and allow you to cope better. And there are dozens and dozens of examples of hostages who manage to have some kind of a relationship with their captor and get on their good side and improve their conditions. And so it also leads us into the head of the captor, because it just shows that even though they're, the Hamas, they're not good people, we call them monsters, but it's important to realize that they're people, they're a human being from the point of view that if there's a human being there, then you can influence them. And that's what I do also when I teach our commandos in POW training. I reframe captivity, and I call it captivity is an interpersonal traumatic situation. But it's traumatic, everyone understands, but interpersonal, how does that make sense? But no, there is another person there. And if you realize that, then you can influence them. And so sometimes those captors also developed positive feelings towards the hostages, and they gave them preferential treatment. And so there's a lot going on there it's hard for.
Als geheet is, als de captors, de mensen die ze gehalten haben, auch developed feelings. This meint, als de hostages nicht gewesen so terrible. Zu die ganze der Point früher, wo ist die meiste Sache, der aufpicken. But once bist in captivity, sort of life goes on. Der Menschen ist gestanden geschlungen a ganzen Tag. So I'm just saying.
To wrap around
it's hard to talk about because, I think everyone right now is like, don't you dare say anything nice about it. We're not. We're not saying anything good about them. They are animals. But, I interviewed a hostage, and he did tell me that, like, there was his captor in the room with him for hundreds of days, and they were talking. They were having conversations, and it's hard to understand. It's like really, it's hard to understand the humanity, but they are human
was schwer zu verstehen?
beings. It's crazy. They are human, and this is something that maybe had glimmers of the humanity.
Der Hamas guy is aufgewachsen dort, and this is on circumstances. Weiß nicht besser, mit ihm gesucht, und jetzt hat gewatscht, einer mit ihm machen conversation. At the end of the game, sind beide humans.
Completely, yeah. It's really important to realize that whatever a hostage did there, it's all about survival, and God forbid that we be critical or judgmental, and we have to see it as it's good that they managed to apply these.
Did you find any of the hostages that came out showcased any of?
It's called Stockholm syndrome. Yeah, I know. Hast schon gehört von dem? Sie geschehen in Stockholm, no? Whatever. It's a bank robbery for a few days, and they fell in love with him.
Like, man, I not miss him, but I just spent 700 days with that guy, and
I saw the whole spectrum, from people who were horrified and angry and traumatized by their captors, and to people who felt positive things. And
weil sie most probably verstanden der andere Seite von der Coin. Jener hat ungeheu Masbezahn von der Israeli, verwusst, through conversation. Toen gaan we zeggen, jener had ook het point. Maar mich ook het etwas brainwashed do dorten.
The whole spectrum.
If you're hurt or find
Sadly, we get it. It feels like he Dafka came out of the Mossad to deliver a message.
Recently on a podcast that I forget who it was with Sinwar, that somebody.
Well, there were a bunch of people who met Sinwar.
There was one of them that had met Sinwar, and Sinwar apologized to him because his family was killed, and he asked him what he can do to make it better for him. And he asked him if he could be held if he could be kept with a specific hostage, and he was held with that specific hostage, and it helped him survive.
Yeah, there are plenty of stories, even more extreme than that, and not just allowing hostages to be held together. There are situations where the Hamas directive was if the IDF approaches, kill the hostages and run away. And that's what happened with a few cases, unfortunately, the 6 that were in the tunnel, including Hirsch. It's terrible. But there were some cases where the IDF came up close and a hostage was being held by a captor, and the captor didn't want to kill the hostage, and he held on and there were some very even very close encounters with the IDF, with the hostage being held by a captor, literally within arm's length of IDF soldiers.
I didn't watch it because you sent it. I watched it because it was on my timeline.
And decided not to kill the hostage because he just felt like they had a bond. And so
it cuts both ways. The trauma bond. It cuts both ways.
Yeah.
It's such an interesting conversation. I'm not like uncomfortable with it, but I feel like we're all obviously we hate Hamas. We hate.
Maar dat was aan einsat. Zoekt es. Oh, we have to be there. We hate him. We hate him. Nicht jeder eine dort ist a Chaya. I'm just saying. Nicht jeder. Sie nicht als a covered blanket. Und wenn einer dort hostage, fängt uns an der andere Seite.
But we want the worst thing to happen to them because they did such terrible things to us. So it's hard to even sit and talk about anything redeeming about them.
Feelings I can't help. You know what I'm saying? I had a feeling today it was Tuesday. And guess what? It's Wednesday.
So diagnose me, psychologist. Like, what's that?
Well, yeah, it's more about.
Ze kijkt ons wie de psychologist do in zijn kop zoekt er van just after. Let me deliver my message, okay?
Us as human beings and cognitively, it's a lot easier for us to see the world
black and white, evil, good.
Yeah, and a sign of psychological maturity is to be able to see both together, to integrate. But it's very hard, especially when we're going through difficult times and traumatic times. Then we have a tendency to split black and white, good and bad. It's also like a survival mechanism, like to differentiate friend and foe.
But I think it would help us relate to the hostages with a lot more accuracy, as opposed to like approaching them with like the feeling of full-on anger, like, oh yeah, those people. It probably makes it so hard for a hostage. Like you hear what I'm saying, or no? Like,
oh, completely. We have all these assumptions about captivity. Again, starting with the one better off being dead than being in captivity, and we project these assumptions onto them.
And it makes them feel so alone, probably.
It makes them feel misunderstood. It makes them feel labeled, and or even an example when a body will come back from like a hostage's body will be returned. So a lot of people I heard were greeting the families and saying, "Oh, you know, we're all so happy now. You must be so happy." No, they're not happy. They're relieved, but they're not happy. And like so,
in a way, the grieving now begins. Yeah.
Yes, and that is a whole another thing. And so we it's very hard for us to be the biggest misconception of in general in psychology is that we assume that other people think and feel like us. We see the world through our own lenses, and it really takes a lot of work to say, okay, this is what I feel, but that's not what somebody else is feeling. And
you touched on the interpersonal stuff, which obviously is important in the POW training you've given and got, but for the vast majority of people listening and watching, hopefully they'll never be in that situation. But the situation they will be in is sitting across from a fellow businessman, a colleague, a negotiation, a mother-in-law, and they're negotiating and they're trying to maneuver their way and deal with other people. What piece of advice, I'm sure some of this is in your book, like what piece of advice would you give in that way of being able to operate under pressure successfully, efficiently, keep your cool? Like what are the keys to that?
Yeah. Well, first of all, whenever you're dealing with other people, I think that's part of, I call it the E factor. What is the E factor? And my elite method of peak performance, there are 5 keys, ELITE. The last E is execution. Everyone's got their execution. The Mossad's execution is to foil the Iranian nuclear threat. If you're in a business meeting, your execution is you want to maximize your gains. If you're a father or mother, you want to get your kids to take a bath. And so the idea is to achieve that execution. What I'm saying is you got to go through the first E, which is emotions. And you have to connect via the emotional world and to make a connection. And it doesn't matter if it's a terrorist holding hostages, and you don't just come out with a bullhorn and say, okay, drop your guns and release the hostages, even though that's the execution I want. You got to start with something really from the emotional world of connecting.
Well, they tried that on Waco, and we saw what happened there.
Right, exactly. And so, so even in captivity, what we spoke about earlier about what goes on there, even captivity is an interpersonal situation. So that means everything is interpersonal. Everything is interpersonal. Wow. And you got to understand that. No matter what you do, it's interpersonal. And so, in order to achieve your goal, you got to get into the other person's head and to understand their needs, and not to think.
Wie ruhiger is. The mensen zich nog eens gericht for about an hour.
Like I win-lose. Okay, I'm going to beat him. No, I think like how can we reach a win-win situation where I'm going to help this person achieve what he wants, and at the same time turn it into a win-win situation via the emotional world. That is the most important thing.
I read a book once.
Richt zich. It is uncomfortable. Richt zich. The andere.
Being like the sports world, like management, basketball players, and I was reading a negotiation book from a guy named Robert Shapiro. Not Shapiro. He went to make. He's not Jewish, so Shapiro. He was an attorney, and he had this method called the big win versus small win. You don't want your opposition to lose. If they lose, they'll never do business with you again. Yeah. You want them to win, but you just want to win bigger. Yeah. I think that's what you're saying right now.
Well, that leads me to a concept that we call in POW training. We call it small wins. It's a little bit different.
No, I feel it. His head, his brain is in ganzen different wie is outwardly.
Different, but it's also super important to realize that no matter what.
Like I said at the beginning of this podcast, I don't know if you were here. The regen geheerd. Mis daran zu der Mossad-Sache, aber gesagt, dass wenn du im Water, kann man gut nicht wissen. Du im Water ist alles, don't take it as face value. And what's his name said, oh, you're being optimistic. So
The situation is,
There
no
was a
matter
warning.
how overwhelming it seems, and no matter how difficult, in order to keep your cool, it's sort of like how do you eat an elephant? Bite by bite. And the same thing here, small wins. Even in captivity, the way they achieved their sense of control in a situation where there is seemingly no control, they control what you eat, if you're going to eat, when you're going to eat, going to the bathroom. But you can always, even in that situation of captivity, find a way to have like small wins. And a small win can be, I got another minute in the shower.
Were the hostages doing that like purposely? Like they understood that?
Well, I mean,
In retrospect, probably not.
yeah, the beauty of it was that when I heard from the hostages, like what helped you cope, it was almost exactly the things that we teach our
what? If the hostages, the regular people had it, why do you need to teach it? Off.
commandos in POW training. Like that concept
Seems
of
off.
small wins is
How'd
something
they
we
pick up
teach.
on that? How'd they know to do that?
Because we are all capable of much more than we imagine, dude. It's
A guy said, is ook niet zo'n wie. Wie is de bekim the apple? Because we're all capable of more. So how do you have the apple in your hand? Nobody has food. Well, we're all capable of more. Yes, but how do you have the apple?
they've got
En
it
die kan zijn als er niet comfortable bekim them
small
terrets.
wins. It's
How'd
something
they
we
pick up
teach.
on that? How'd they know to do that?
Because we are all capable of much more than we imagine, dude.
Ze is geworden een bisschen verloren. Hat umgeben mehr, geben mehr. Aha, lachen, schmeicheln. En dan can be uncomfortable eerder geworden.
They've got it inside.
Yes.
That's
They
the
got it inside.
whole point. When I say I saw these 80-year-old ladies, 10-year-old boys doing things that we teach our commandos in POW training.
So you're teaching level 1 van de commando's? Deze de ganze Mossad?
They did it without training. So the conclusion is that they just have it inherently, this inherent resilience and ability to cope.
Yeah. There's a documentary that just, not a documentary, it's a show.
He's also trying to take away a lot from when the kicks doen jetzt the hostages. They sehen a picture van the hostages. They go, wow, what a powerful person versus, oh, Kivu het mitgemacht.
About October 7th. One of the stories that followed was Eitan Yalomi, a 10-year-old who was taken, and I'm watching it, and then it's obviously going to real life footage. You know, him and his mother, his mother and his sister and his other sister were separated from him, and they escaped the captivity, and the son was taken, and he was held for 50 days in captivity. This 10-year-old. He's gonna be okay.
So I'm not going to relate
Not about
specifically
him,
to
yeah.
anybody, but in general, a lot of people ask about children, and they're like even more worried. How could they possibly, move on, and their lives are
Was got to the as children that are even stronger than adults.
going to be over. And
Yes,
the
they-
first one I would say, in general, people there are many people who come out and have been years in captivity. Gilad Shalit was 5 years in captivity.
But we haven't seen much. Like we haven't seen him.
He's busy, but he's okay. He's living a meaningful life.
Okay.
I'm telling you,
He's okay.
a lot of kids who came out, the kids are a lot more adaptive than we are.
Yeah.
And,
That's what I said.
of course, it's a trauma, it's a scar for life. But
Wat was het met de scar? Ja, maar zeggen dat.
they're moving
Memorable.
on, doing their thing.
That's it, moving the thing. Welcome back. I don't know. Okay.
And there are plenty of stories of kids, more or less Eitan's age and a little bit older, who they would, in captivity, apropos of small wins, they would make fun of their captors. They would call them names. The bold guy, the fat guy, the ugly guy. There was one 14-year-old kid who had a push-up competition with his captor, and he beat him. And so all these little, and these are kids. They found a way to feel, okay, you know what? I'm gonna beat this guy. And so even kids, especially kids, have the ability to cope.
I don't know if he's trying to make it normalized, but I think he's like, oh, ze gaan captivity. We gaan het sleepaway camp. Zo almost dezelfde zaak. Ja, mine is the camp, mine is the sleep, mine is the that. Just this some.
Of course, it's traumatic, and a lot of them will have traumatic symptomology, and some of them maybe will develop PTSD to a certain degree, but all
That's
in all,
it, a kleine PTSD. They should go hear my song, PTSD, huh?
the kids are also in that category of people like us who are going to be able to somehow bear this and move on. And I'll give you an example. I mean, I asked a woman the other day about, how her son was doing, a returnee, and she said he's
Fine.
an annoying teenager.
That's it. Perfectly fine. Alles ik het.
So that's like the best thing you could actually imagine to hope to hear. Like he's moving on, being what he should be doing as a teenager, being annoying.
Yeah. The people on the outside react the way it seems like we
Veel we de question, de kaimels, je kimmen dat het ze kaimels geween. Lecha, ja.
we react way worse than the hostages going back.
Well,
because we can't fathom what it's
I'll
like.
give you an example. Eli Shalabi talks about this in one of his interviews. He said that he was in the hospital and the psychologist with him, they're crying, because it's just overwhelming for them, and he had to calm them down. And so again, it's very, very tricky, and my messaging is very tricky because it is hell.
It is. You understand how tricky it is.
Yeah, and that's why I have to be
that's
very careful.
psychology.
Yeah, but especially this, it's such a loaded topic. It's the most emotionally charged topic, and we have this specific opinion. So my message is that yes, it is hell, but at the same time, we are capable of going to hell and coming back to tell the tale and to survive it.
That's the message. The message isn't what they went through wasn't as bad as you think. The message is they're stronger than you think.
Yes.
They're stronger than you think.
For sure.
Wenn denn darf ich kein Mossad agent, darauf können wir sagen. This can happen anybody. People that I know went through life, hell and back. Not everybody, but a lot. Darf ich Mossad, was again 30 Jahre, the head psychologist, days all sagen. Level 1 stuff.
This is stronger than you think. What's the name of the book?
We don't have the title yet.
That's really exciting to read. It seems like this is going to be like a blueprint.
The head guy from the Mossad weiß noch what the name of the book is. You tell me.
Yeah.
For people to really like take everything that God gave them in life and use it. Because you, again, 168 hostages you met with and the things that you've detailed, what you've seen and heard, and the fact that they're, it's amazing. People always remark to me.
What meer geglaubt when I zoek me when, yeah, I spoke to 10. 5 are ready to jump off a building. 3 are already hanging. 2 are busy at work, so they are coping. You know what I mean? And 1 guy is good. Then I would believe him. Jeder geht, alles are fine.
Oh, these hostages that came back and other celebrities.
Not smelling.
I'm like, well, he survived. And if you think about like what that actually means, this is what it means. It didn't mean they just they kept a pulse till it came out. The survival, what you're saying is so much deeper. It's not just staying alive.
No, it's very, very active. It's not being a lizard and just lying there until it's over. It's being active and doing incredible things to cope, which we all are capable of.
No. So you're right now, you're in New York and you speak places. And I guess this podcast is one of the places you're stopping.
Yeah.
So people can reach out to you. They can go to your website, glenn-cohen.com, glenn-cohen.com.
Yeah. I feel like I have a mission now to bring hope and resilience to Jewish communities around the world, and it's driving me.
It's cool that this is uniquely like a Jewish trait almost that you're saying because of what we...
It's
like epigenetics.
Like, 30 Jahre, a Mossad agent, jetzt will er.
We have.
It's especially Jewish, even more so. We're all capable of much more than we imagine. Not everyone is capable of the same amount of things, but the Jewish people are capable of surviving more than other cultures. I'm sure of that. Because we've been put to the test for thousands of years.
And the world doesn't understand how we're still here. And we're still here.
It's a miracle.
Yeah.
We are the eternal people.
Yeah. Well, Glenn, thank you so much for joining me.
A pleasure.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. All right. Like I said in the beginning, wenn sie kommt, der Regel gesucht, der Wort Mossad, hat mich verloren. Meaning like, who knows? Wuss ja, wuss nicht. Wie ist der Spectrum? Wie legt man es heran in a, how do we know? Man weiß nicht. So, es schmeckt nicht. But it's okay. 37,000 views 4 days ago. Seems nice. Seems all right. Seems okay. All right? Da-da-da-da-da-da. All right. Jetzt gaan we gaan een bisschen music. A bisschen a lighter mode. We'll finish with a lighter note. 5 hours ago, 639 views. Shazoli's channel. Hamelech heißt das. Chaim Itzkevich. Composed by Chaim Itzkevich. Dudi Kalish and Yididam Choir. Let's get into it. We will finish with this one. Vrumi Berko's video. Oh, en scammer den violinist. Scammer the saxophone guy. Yiddidim sound sehr powerful. I like them. Couldn't have believed the Hasidic guitarist. We gotta give him some love. The drummer sounds very exciting. Ooh, dem drummer. Ich meine, als die Kalisch idea, als geht conducten the band und noch dem singen, not a good match. Sie sagen die dann irgendwie, ja, ein Aroich lechu, Hashem Eloi koyeni. French horns effen tof herum. Don't know. Interesting song. Don't know if I liked it or not. I guess I have seen the ending a couple of times. But the idea is college size singt, nicht gehirige singen. Geharmonized in busy mit the crowd and busy mit the conducting. Oder conductor, oder singst, oder bist du busy. Misch nicht zusammen. But you did them quiet, or sound sehr good. They sound sehr powerful lately. Since the some had the one with vergessen the nummer von der Negen. Wie sie singen, jeder eine singt, jeder choir member bekommt a position zu singen, a part zu singen. Since demos, then is that off a couple of levels. So want to give it to them. Very nice, very well. They stand for the review. All right. חבר'ה. Sie kommen der Zeit. Carla should have gone. Yeah, but I don't like when he does these things. These two things. Sehr busy mit einer Sache. Alright, חבר'ה. Sie kommen der Zeit. Darf man sich segnen. Darf sagen goodbye. It's came on easy. No matter how many times I try. But I gotta do it. Wir gehen mal für einen Flug in einer lange Zeit, eine kurze Zeit, eine viele Minuten, eine viele Dinge, so wir gucken auf andere Tab und gemacht mit YouTube eine Tab. Aber warum ich meine dir? So thank you. We'll get my score for all likers, shares, commenters, and subscribers, and especially members. This is what keeps the channel going. A special thanks for Levi Lesson for den schicken quick pace, also via super chat. So thank you. I really do appreciate it. This is what keeps the channel, flowing. Housekeeping, morgen Donnerstag, so only live in the morning. Thursday night, there is no live. So we'll see you all tomorrow morning. Die will supporten the channel. Kannst du stehen auf a few ways. Kannst schicken a quick pay zu viggivibes@gmail. Oder kannst du schicken zu buymeacoffee/viggivibes. Ich habe gepinnt, wie heißt das? The address oben bei the comments. Oder kannst du schicken a super chat. Whatever floats the boat. That's what keeps the channel going, חבר'ה. All right. Thank you all for being here. We'll see you all mañana. Again, thanks for the great, awesome opportunity. All right. Until next time. Stay calm.